outcome-based education framework and meaning of outcome and background of outcome-based education, the graduate competency and the attributes, Bloom's taxonomy, modified Bloom's taxonomy, that is very important, especially for the present scenario of higher education system. How do we assess the learners under the outcome-based education framework? And important components in outcome-based education is about the course outcomes. So you have to be trained how to write the course outcomes for each and every course, whether it is a theory course or a practical course or a tutorial course or a case study course, whatever it is, how to write the course outcome statements. These are to be known. And what are the mapping strategies we have to follow while developing the outcome-based education framework for a particular program, irrespective of the discipline, whether it is arts, science, commerce, vocational, professional, etc. And what are the assessment methodologies we will follow? And particularly, there are two types, direct and indirect assessment methods. So I would like to throw some light on this. And how to consolidate the report with respect to the overall assessments under this outcome-based education. And this should be put forth for each and every course, so for each and every program, and ultimately that will reflect about the quality of the service rendering by the higher education institution. And if time permits, I would like to put you for some hands-on training by using simple Excel template. How do we do certain calculations related to outcome-based education? This is about the actual content I am going to take you for this 2.5 hours. So if you get any queries or doubts in between my lecture, you please put your question in the chat box, or when the time permitted during the break, they can be taken for discussion. So now we are in the era of the education system, and this education system is bringing the transformation in the world. If you look back about the ancient education system, world education system, right from Nalanda, Takshashila, where Guru used to teach the students, and not only the teaching duty was involved with one-way work, it was involved with all the discussions and practical assessment, whether the student has learned the concept properly or not. You can take an example of Ekalavya, who put the statue of Dronacharya to learn the archery education. So even in the absence of the Dronacharya, he assumed the idol of the Dronacharya was the Guru, and he learned the archery to a effective level. So that's how the education system should teach us. If we simply teach in the classroom by looking at some material or by writing something on the blackboard or by writing something in the PowerPoint presentation, and if we cover all those things within the stipulated period of the time, it may be 55 minutes or 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, what we are doing now, that is not going to be useful, because there should be a paradigm shift in the higher education system. The global demands are very, very different. The student who has been educated in India should fit well in order to become employed across the globe. That's what this outcome-based education is imposed even in India soon after implementation of National Education Policy 2020 throughout the country. Of course, there are various queries related to National Education Policy 2020. I am not going to touch upon all those things, but as far as this outcome-based education system, this is one of the modern education systems which definitely brings the transformation in the attitude of the learners. What kind of attitude the learners have to develop? Learners are to be with high demand. That is very important. If at all having a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD degree, that may not be sufficient for that student, for that graduate, in order to say, I am in a comfortable position or situation. Soon after getting his degree, it may be graduation level or post-graduation level or even doctoral level. That degree should help him to serve the society. First thing is he has to become employed. When he will become employed, he will become employable only when he has installed with all those skills which are very, very essential, which are required to the present market. Say, when a student is just completed post-graduation degree, it may be MA, MSc, MCom, MSW, MOOC, MBA, MTech, whatever it is. If you wanted to become a teacher in a reputed institution, definitely that graduate will be put for a demo class. Of course, there are several parameters going to be considered in order to make him appointed. Keep all those things apart. But during presentation of a lecture, the effectiveness of the lecture should be in such a way that the intended matter should be conveyed to the audience, conveyed to the listeners in an appropriate manner, or that should be conveyed to the learners in such a way that they should not have any confusion. The medium of the conveyor and the listeners should be very, very comfortable in such a way that the topic taught by the teacher, the topic taught by the lecturer, a topic taught by the presenter should be competent enough. It should be in such a way that that has to make the learners to be very much commanded. That's what the transformation in education system is very, very important. Otherwise, maki kamaki, what we are being doing, just writing something on the blackboard. So bell will be ringed. Once the bell is rang, we will go out of the classroom. We give some assignment. We give some sample questions to solve. We evaluate the assignment. We put some marks. Then we will conduct the examination. That may be internal assessment test or the end semester examination or annual examination, whatever it is. We do conduct some waiver for that candidate. And finally, we will provide the candidate with some transcript or the marks card. That marks card is just a piece of paper, and that is not going to serve that candidate to become employable. So we have to make this reverse. Of course, the transcript is required in order to showcase that candidate is having the qualification. Apart from that, that candidate has to demonstrate or illustrate himself that he is having all those skills for the present day generation. That's what the outcome based education is very, very essential. So there should be a paradigm shift. There should be substantial shift from the conventional education system to the modern education system, where the conventional education system, what I have mentioned earlier, that Nalanda, Takshashila, are what we were doing up to, say, 2015, 2016, say, they were all based on the teacher-centric methodology. So in the teacher-centric methodology, whatever I have told so far, they are all covered. Teacher used to stand in front of the students, in front of the learners, and he used to deliver some lecture on a particular topic for a stipulated period of time. Then, if time permits, certain interactions will be happening. If time do not permit us, we will go out of the classroom. We conduct the internal assessment test. We do the end semester examination. We put some marks. Marks are awarded to the candidates. Then marks card will be issued to the students. That's it. The students are classified into passed or failed, first class, second class, third class, distinction, etc. So, along with this, certain skills are to be invaded in the students, and that is available in the outcome-based education. So that is very, very, very important in the context of making the students to become sustainable resources. The human resources, which are very, very powerful, the human resources are very powerful in building the nation, and that nation should be healthy. So the literacy level is increasing in India. Not only the literacy level is increasing, but also there is some dangerous development also going on. Why this is happening? Only percentage of graduates coming out every year is increasing, but they are not employable. Why? The skills are not present in those students. So teachers are having great responsibilities in transforming the students, not only with the qualifications, but also with all those required skills, and that is put in outcome-based education. So, if you replace the teacher-centric education from learner-centric education, what exactly this learner-centric education means? So, teacher has to understand what is required to make the student to learn. We are standing in a classroom, we are standing in a lecture hall, or I am presenting a lecture to all of you. I have to understand first what you all need. So if you are teaching history, if you are teaching ancient history, anthropology, or chemistry, or physics, or mathematics, or psychology, you have a prescribed curriculum. In that prescribed curriculum, what outcomes a student have to adapt after completion of study of that particular course. This you have to understand, and in such a way that you have to facilitate the teaching duty to that particular learner. So you have to adapt various activities to teach the subject which is prescribed in the curriculum. So the learner-centric education system is connected in a triangular manner, and the first one is to facilitate the learning by, by teaching with various learning activities. Okay. Is your job is over? Once you complete your teaching, is your job is no. Hello?
Exam ಉಳಿದಾಗ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಫೈನಲ್ ಇಯರ್
Can you please mute? Can you please mute dear participants?
ಯಾರಿಲ್ಲ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಏನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ. ಲಾವಣ್ಯ ಹೋಗಿದಾರಲ್ಲ, ಲಾವಣ್ಯ ಅವ್ರು ಸುಮ್ನೆ ಹಂಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇದ್ರೆ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದಾರೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಶ್ರೀನಿವಾಸ್ ಸರ್ ನಿನ್ನೆ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಇಂದ ಏನಂತ ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
ಅಭಯ್ ಸರ್ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಅಭಯ್ ಸರ್.
Dear teacher colleagues, please mute yourself. Do not interrupt in between the lecture. Am I clear? Is my voice audible
Yes,
to
sir.
every one of you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Shall I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, in this learner-centered teacher education system, a teacher has to work out in order to make the student to innovate with various aspects for better learning. So once the learning is completed through the teaching process, what the teacher is doing, the teacher has to assess the student in order to evaluate whether the learning is happening properly or not. So various assessment tasks you have to perform, and the assessment task may be conducting the internal assessment test, giving the assignment, conducting the seminar for the student, doing the viva-voce examination, or taking the students to the field trips or field projects, or putting for a minor research project, whatever it is. So lively, you have to assess whether the learner is performing properly or not. So these are all the assessment tasks. Once you assess, during the assessment, you have to make sure that is there any additional thing I have to put on the student for the better learning? This is very important. You have to know all those things, whether the learning is happening or not. When this will become possible? This would be possible only when face-to-face interaction between the teacher and the learner is there. Otherwise, if you simply continue teaching something in the classroom and leaving the student apart when you reach your home, that is not going to put you to the proper assessment platform. Assessment is very important. So dependent upon the requirement of the learner, you have to teach and you have to assess in order to assure whether the student is learning to the mark or not. Then once the assessment is done, you should understand what do I want my students to learn. They are all going to be the outcomes. So you taught them, you assessed them, and whether the student or the learner has occupied the related skills or not, whether he is capable to become employable, whether he is capable to become to go to higher education or not. All these things should be assessed. So these are all known as intended learning outcomes. Suppose a student is pursuing for BA degree or BSc degree, etc. Certain skills he has to occupy, certain skills he has to earn, student has to earn. There are learning outcomes. Based on the skills earned by the students, he will be evaluated for analyzing whether he is employable or not. So they are all intended learning outcomes. Okay. So if a student has acquired the intended learning outcomes, we can call them as ILOs. I will touch upon this in due course of time. What do I know about my students? Assessment is not simply conducting the test or evaluating the answer paper or putting some marks on the answer paper. Your job is still not over. So you have to know about your student. Whether really the student has educated with the competency, is he really commanded over the subject? Is he able to convey the matter, what he has learned? Is he able to face the interview to get the job? Is he able to narrate a story? Suppose he graduated in optional English or optional Kannada or something else, because he has to become teacher. He has to teach the future generation. That's what you have to understand the idea, the mentality, or the competency level of the student. That should be brought only through the paradigm shift in higher education system. Otherwise, it is not possible. So you carefully observe this. Anyway, I will go not in detail about this now, but after 20-25 slides, I will take this again. This is a clear picture showing the outcome-based education framework. This outcome-based education framework is all dependent upon the role of the teacher, not only to teach the subject, but also to assess the student. Why the students are to be assessed? So you have to assure the students have acquired all the skills and thereby they have attained the outcomes, means what exactly the education institution is anticipating, that the students have to acquire certain knowledge. That is very important. That is known as attainment. These attainments are not, the skills are not the indicators which comes from the accidental evolution. They are through the systematic evaluation of the systematic learning of the students from each and every course or from the program or the objectives of the educational institution. This is very important. You can see this house outcome-based education framework will be succeeded, will become successful only when teacher does his duty very, very effectively. So that is interrelated to one another. Teaching, assessment, attainment, course outcomes related to course, program outcomes related to programs, program specific outcomes related to programs, program learning objectives related to the educational institution, program learning objectives, program educational objectives that is also related to the education institution. And they are directly concerned with the vision and the mission of the higher education institution. If any higher education institution would like to sustain, the vision and mission are to be fulfilled. Any higher education will be having its own vision. So if a quality education is needed to be served to the society, it has to work with the several missions. Anyway, you might have seen these mission statements near to the principal chamber or the vice chancellor's chamber, etc. And these missions are fulfilled only through the systematic discharging of the duties in the higher education institution. Otherwise, it is not going to be possible. It will be highly impossible. Let me come back to this later. Okay. What is outcome now? It is very important to understand the meaning of this outcome. Suppose you are teaching the theory of relativity, Einstein theory of relativity in solid state chemistry, or Newton's third law, or say Rannana Gadayuddha in Kannada, or psychological principles, whatever it is, whatever the subject you are teaching in the classroom. So once your lecture is over, or once you complete your teaching duties in the classroom throughout the semester or throughout the year, the resulted consequence through your teaching is nothing but the outcome. Say, a student has passed the examination for the chemistry course or BSc chemistry he has acquired. What he is capable to do by that BSc chemistry degree, what the student is capable to do by acquiring the degree in MSc psychology. So that what word is answered by certain answer, that answer is the outcome. If at all a student has got the degree, after acquiring the degree, if the student is employable, then the skills the student acquired is nothing but the outcome. So outcome can be defined as it is a consequence or the result. It is a relative terminology. Outcome is a relative terminology of the learning process. Outcome is related not only to the course, but also to the program. Program has its outcome, BA has its outcome, BCom has its outcome, BBA is having its own outcome. So that is the relative terminology for each and every program, for each and every course.
ಹೇಳಿದಾರೆ ಅದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಇಡಂಗಿಲ್ಲ ಅಮೂಲ್ಯನೇ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅದು.
Sorry. Okay. So outcome can be defined as it is a relative terminology. It is a consequence of an action or an activity or a process or a performance. If a student is performing an experiment in the laboratory, or if a student is taken to a visit to zoo or an industry, it may be industry tour, it may be a field work, it may be an internship, whatever it is. What are the benefits from that internship the student is gaining? What are the benefits from the visit to the zoo the student is gaining? That is the outcome. That is the outcome. So the outcome in education can be defined as it is the observable results. It is the observable results or the achievements of an educational process. You may be teaching history course, you may be teaching a mathematics course, you may be teaching linear algebra, you may be teaching calculus, you may be teaching ancient history, whatever it is. There should be some observable result noticed by the teacher in students. That is known as outcome. Outcomes are in what forms? They are in the forms of the knowledge, they are in the forms of the skills, they are in the forms of the attitudes, they are in the forms of the values. How can you come to know all these things? Students have acquired all those things during their course of study, during their bachelor's degree or master's degree. They have acquired certain knowledge, they have acquired the attitude, they have acquired the skills or moral values to become employable. And these acquired skills, acquired knowledge, or acquired values are nothing but the outcomes. So you should be good enough to specifically define what is outcome in education arena. Really, a student is having certain outcomes in the form of either knowledge or skills or values or attitude, then they are known as his intended learning outcomes. Definitely, these intended learning outcomes was proposed in the curriculum in order to make the student to acquire those various skills or the talent or the capabilities or capacities. So that will become possible to achieve only through the proper coaching or mentoring or training. This is all about the meaning of the outcome. One has to realize the meaning of the outcome-based education apart from the outcome. I have put here two important components. You can see very simply, there are two components. One is outcome and another one is the output in the education system. Output is simply the qualification. It is in the form of the paper, and that can be quantifiable in the form of the knowledge. It may be possible or it may not be possible to quantify the knowledge. No one can quantify the knowledge of individuals by looking at the candidate. So how can we quantify that knowledge? We can quantify that knowledge only when we interact face to face. Only when we understand the intended learning outcomes acquired by that particular student during the course of teaching in the classroom, during the course of the assessment, during the course of the evaluation. So that is the output. Outcome means, as I have already defined, it is the competency or the ability acquired by the candidate. Your job is not over. When you teach a certain subject, your job is not over. You have to make sure that student has really acquired the knowledge, what you have taught. Not only the knowledge, and that knowledge should be useful. It should be applicable to apply. That is very important. The kind of the education what we are providing to the student, that should be helpful to become employable. That is the outcome-based education. Don't forget this. So you have to teach the competencies. The student has to become competent enough. He should be confident enough. When he is confident, then definitely he will acquire the competency. When he is having the competency, he will be good enough to face the interviewer in the interview hall. You will not worry, you will not bother about the kind of the question posed by the interviewer in the interview hall related to the subject or related to the general aptitude or related to the attributes, whatever it is. So that's what we can differentiate outcome from output. So in outcome-based education or outcome-based learning, outcome is the competency and where it is a qualitative indicator of the knowledge. Say, if you interact with a student, if you interact with some X person, the moment you have that situation, you will analyze whether this candidate is potential enough or not. That is the quality of knowledge. Quantity of the knowledge is in the form of the marks. So if you look at the marks card, 90% or the distinction that is indicated in the marks card, that is the quantity of the knowledge. This quantity of the knowledge is totally different from the quality of the knowledge. Quantity of the knowledge will not come to be useful when you compare that with the quality of the knowledge. This is what the differentiation you must have. Okay. You must understand about certain acquired competencies, especially in students. What is this exactly? You know, outcome is qualification. Is it enough? No. It should be a competency. Not only the qualification is also one of the outcomes. BA degree is the qualification. That is one of the outcomes. MSc psychology is one of the qualification. That is the outcome, one of the outcomes. Whether the student has acquired the competency to face the real world problems, that is the competency. That is also one of the outcomes. That is very important. Next, acquisition of the knowledge is different from utilization of the knowledge. Of course, even I have a triple degree. So I am having PhD degree in chemistry. Really, is that degree is useful to survive in the society or to serve the society? That is the question, $1 million question. If we wanted to serve the society, the qualification or the degree or the talent or the competency, what we have earned during our education tenure, that should be utilized. The knowledge we have acquired, that should be utilized, not only for myself, but also for the others. That is the sustainable atmosphere. So that's what we can put that as the acquisition of the knowledge is totally different from utilization of the knowledge. Then another important thing is there should be a synergic inculcation between the knowledge and the skill. Say an electronic engineer has acquired the BE degree, he's an electronic engineer. If he is not able to solve the puzzle related to the electronic engineering, he don't have the skill. Of course, he is having the BE degree, that's all. After all, the BE degree is not making him employable. The related skills are very important. So more your qualifications, more the skills you have to acquire. That is very important. So in this context, you should install the skills in the students. There should be some hybrid aspects to be involved in the qualification in the form of the outcomes. All these are known as acquired competencies. Okay. When a candidate is becoming graduated, it may be undergraduation degree, honors degree, or master's degree, or doctoral degree, whatever it is, diploma, certificate, program, whatever it is, certain attributes he has to earn. What are those attributes? They are known as graduate attributes. They are simply called as GAS. These graduate attributes are the qualities again. So after completion of the degree, what qualities that candidate has earned? Their skills, their understandings that students should develop during study for a degree. Not only the marks, not only the marks card, but what varied qualities the student has earned, what related skills related to the subject, related to the domain knowledge, related to the soft skills related to industry. Why? Because he has to work in industry by using the knowledge gained in respect of the subject. So these qualities are known as graduate attributes. So really, these graduate attributes will prepare the graduates for their careers. And they will become informed citizens. They are placed at the top in the society, in the hierarchy. A bachelor's degree holder or a master's degree holder or a doctoral degree holder, you assume simply a person is having the doctoral degree, but he is not capable to narrate the research methodology story with a real world example. Then his doctoral degree will be went vain. That is not going to be useful. Over a period of time, he will become a research supervisor, but he is not having the potentiality to guide the students. Then how he will become useful to the society? So you don't have the graduate attribute. So this is a dangerous development. That scenario should not be seen in the education system. So what are the common graduate attributes you have to concentrate while teaching in the classroom? Not only you teach history, not only you teach mathematics or etc. You have to assure that the learners or the students have really acquired the graduate attributes. These are certain examples of the graduate attributes I am presenting before you, and they are available even in the standard textbooks. There are 12 real world graduate attributes which are very, very essential to make the students employable. Okay, number one, it is all related to the discipline, subject. What extent of the subject knowledge the graduate has acquired, what extent of the subject skills he has earned. That is the first graduate attribute. That is very important. Of course, without this graduate attribute, he may not be able to pass the course. He may not be able to pass the degree. That is one thing. And the second important one is critical thinking and problem solving skills. They are very important. Although we have degree, double degree, triple degree, the student will be able to solve some problems. He has to think critically. Some simple problems are given to him, real world problems I am talking. I am not talking on the numerical problems, the real world problems. If he is struck to face a real world problem, what are the capabilities? He has to solve that problem. So how to solve the problem? He has to acquire the troubleshooting knowledge. Say, a person is performing a titration. A person is writing a story. A person is climbing a hill. Various obstacles will be in front of him. How to solve those problems? He has to think critically in order to solve those problems. That is very important. Then another important attribute is communication skills. If at all the graduate is having a gold medal in his credit, but he don't have the ability to communicate with his neighbors, with the teachers, with the collaborators, with the interviewer, with the subordinates, etc., then what is the use of the degree? Communication skills are various types. Communication is not only speaking, it is also writing, it is also presenting the seminar, it is also asking a leave with the higher authority, it is also, say, putting the draft for wedding card. These are all communication skills. So good communication skill is also very, very important. Next important one is teamwork and collaboration. See, some of the problems can't be solved by an individual. We have to work together. If we work together, various solutions will be in front of us. One or the other solution will be specific one to solve the problem. That's what the teamwork is very, very important. Teamwork, how can we initiate that? We should not be superior. We should not be inferior. One should have the ability to coordinate with the other. Then only there will be a possibility of initiating the collaborative activities or teamwork activities. If I am superior to myself, I don't want to curb any problem with the assistance from my neighbor, then that is not possible. That is not a scenario to solve the problem. So teamwork is very, very important. Then another thing is ethics and social responsibility. If you do not have the ethics, if you do not have the social responsibility, your degree will be useless. There are certain regulations, there are certain rules. You have to follow that. That's what the system is having, say, the system of law, system of education. All these things are working under certain regulations, rules, etc. If we are abided to all those things, then we have the ethics. If we have the ethics, if we are functioning with a good extent of the ethics, then we will have social responsibility. Otherwise, it is not. That's what this is very, very important. Then another thing is lifelong learning. Say, I am aged about 43 years or 50 years or 70 years, whatever it is. If you have the responsibilities, you should have the ability to listen. You should have the ability to learn. You should have the ability to involve with others. Learning is a continuous process. It will not be stopped at one point of contact time. Every day we are learning. So I am delivering a lecture. I would be able to understand my problems during my presentation. I have to solve those problems to improvise the content I am presenting, to improvise the vocabulary, to improvise the subject matter, meaning, etc. These are all the real world development aspects. Then you have to understand the global citizenship. BA degree is, say, undergraduate degree or master's degree is not only to get the job, to make your family survivable. You have the responsibility to the society. You have the responsibility to the global level. You should earn that. You should earn that capabilities. Then another important thing is digital literacy. For all you are having all those competencies without having the digital literacy means nowadays we are living in the era of artificial intelligence. We are living in the era of the cloud-based servers. If we are not able to make utilizing them, then we are waste. Digital literacy, of course, they may be advantageous or disadvantageous. If we do not possess the digital literacy knowledge, then our qualifications will be went when. We have to keep on updating and upgrading according to the situation. Then only we get more values rather than the others. Then there is always scope for innovation and creativity. If you have all these graduate attributes, definitely you will be very curious, you will be enthusiastic in order to innovate the things and in order to create some new things. You will become intellectual assets to the world. When you become creative, when you are innovative ideas in yourself, then you will become an intellectual asset to the society. When you are an intellectual asset to the society, you will have more demand. Then definitely you will have more earning. We are all showing the importance on that. Okay. So all these graduate attributes are to be implemented through the curriculum. These cannot be taught out of the classroom. While prescribing a curriculum, while developing the curriculum, especially in the outcome-based education framework, these are integrated with certain learning experiences, and they have to be assessed too. These graduate attributes, whether really acquired by the students or not, these are to be assessed too. Of course, if possible, we have to take on some extracurricular activities also. So if a student, along with the degree, he has earned all these graduate attributes, what are the benefits he's going to have? He will become employable. So there will be personal growth for that candidate, not only the personal growth, but also there will be huge impact on the society. There should be healthy impact. That should be healthy impact. So this is all about the graduate attributes. Okay. Certain terminologies you have to understand in outcome-based education before we go further. In that, number one is a course. All of you are teachers. I'm also a teacher. You have the curriculum. We have the curriculum for bachelor's degree or master's degree, even plus 2 level, whatever it is. So far, what we are calling in a degree, there are various papers. It may be theory, it may be practical, it may be tutorial, it may be internship, it may be field work, it may be project, etc. That paper is given with a new synonym that is a course. So course is defined as it is a theory, practical or theory come practical subject studied in the semester. For example, history, mathematics, animation, electronic engineering, say NCC, NSS, environmental studies, Indian constitution, linear algebra, etc. A particular paper, you cannot call them as a paper under the outcome-based education scenario. It should be pronounced as a course. Then the course outcome, that is simply represented as CO. What is course outcome? Course outcome is a statement. What kind of statement it is? Say, a student has passed history, a student has passed animation course. After passing the animation course, what he is really capable? By the end of completion of the first semester or the second semester, etc., he has passed the animation course or history course or basic mathematics course or fundamentals of computer applications course. What are the competencies? What are the attributes he has earned? What he is capable enough? That is the course outcome. So it is a statement, the essential learning that learners have achieved. And by means of that, he is having the capability to demonstrate something. That is the course outcome. Usually, 3 or more course outcomes will be prescribed for a particular course. Okay, then next, program. Program is the degree. Say BA History, Economics, Kannada is a degree. BA HEK is a degree. MSc Computer Science is a degree. That is the program. MSc Computer Science is the program. BA Psychology is a program. Then program outcomes. These program outcomes tells about the competency of the student after completion of that program, that is BA, BSc, BCom, BBA, MA, MSc, MCom, MSW, PhD, etc. What the student is expected to be able to do by the time of graduation, that is the program outcome. And these are very narrow statements. So these program outcomes are aligned with the graduate attributes. Once he has Bachelor of Engineering degree, say computer science engineering degree, that computer science engineering degree should earn the job for him. That BA history should earn the job for him. BSc degree should earn the job for him. Why he will get the job? He has the attribute. He has the graduate attribute. Therefore, program outcomes are the narrower statements. They describe the competency or the skills acquired by the student by the time of the graduation, which are aligned with the graduate attributes. Then another important thing is program educational objectives, that is denoted by PEOs. And this is expected by the institute. Institute has to take care about the student who has studied in the higher education institution. After few years, what exactly the graduated student from our institution is doing. This is the program educational objective. So the expected achievements of the graduates in their career, and also in particular, what the graduates are expected to perform and achieve during the first few years after graduation, this should be taken care very importantly, because this is related to the vision and mission statement of the higher education institution. If the program educational objectives are fulfilled by the students, definitely admissions are more to the higher education institution. If the admissions are more in the sense that the quality of the education serving in the institution is good, then the institution is improving, it is developing, it is going up. That's what it is very important for the authorities of the higher education institutes, that you have to assess the program educational objectives of the students. How do we do this? Say one candidate has graduated from your higher education institution. After 2 to 3 years, you speak to him. You go to the employer where that student is working, where that graduate is working, and you understand the situation of that graduate. What is really still needed, that you implement through the curriculum. That is possible through program educational objectives. Then program specific outcomes. Here, there is a close proximity between program outcomes and program specific outcomes. The program outcomes is solely related to the bachelor's degree or master's degree. This program specific outcomes is related to certain specific degrees. There are specific outcomes related to specific degrees. Say BA, there may be different programs for BA, there may be different programs for BSc. BSc Physics, Chemistry, Mathematics, BSc Physics, Computer Science, Mathematics. These are different programs. Each and every BSc program will have certain specific outcomes. They are known as program specific outcomes, and they are denoted by PSO. Then another important thing is graduate attribute. As I already told you, graduate attributes are the qualities or the competencies acquired by the students during their course of tenure. Okay, apart from this, so far I spoke about the framework of the outcome-based education and important terminologies, definitions. Along with all these things, in order to assess the learning levels of the learners, we have to systematically follow certain guidelines, certain regulations. And one of them is Bloom's taxonomy. You might have heard about this Bloom's taxonomy. This was innovated to the academic system in the year 1956. It was developed by Benjamin Bloom and other group of educational psychologists with an intention to evaluate the learning abilities, with an intention to evaluate the capabilities of the learners. How we need not to assess the students by asking the questions and to write the answers by remembering certain concepts. That is known as rote learning. That is not good enough. We have to make the learners to learn the concept in various levels. That has been put in Bloom's taxonomy. And inevitably, there were some limitations found. I am not going to touch upon all those things because of the time constraint. The Bloom's taxonomy has been modified in the year 2001 in order to promote the learning abilities of the learners from bottom to the top levels. Students should not be in the elementary level. He should acquire all the competencies with respect to the real world challenges. Why? Because he has to become employable. And that is showcased in modified Bloom's taxonomy. You can make use of this particular slide in order to differentiate between Bloom's and modified Bloom's taxonomy which were developed in 1956 and 2001 respectively. Bloom's taxonomy, it all covers about the cognitive, affective, and psychomotor skills are the domains acquired by the learner. What is this cognitive? Cognitive means that is all related to the subject, that is all related to the discipline. Maybe social science or humanities, it may be commerce and management, it may be a professional program, whatever it is. The competencies related to the subject will be acquired by the learner. They are all put under cognitive. Affective. What is the use of those degrees, those knowledge, those competencies, how that person is affected, whether he is employable or not. The psychology, emotional feeling is also put in forth in these affective domains. Then psychomotor, whether he is capable in performing something with the knowledge what he has gained. So the Bloom's taxonomy had the components such as knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. If we assess a student based on these components, somewhere we are missing the extraordinary competency of the student. That's what the modified Bloom's taxonomy can be utilized, and it covers assessing the students in the levels such as remembering, understanding, application, analysis, evaluation, and creation. These are all solely related to the cognitive domain. If the cognitive domain is good in student, definitely the affective and psychomotor skills will be excellent. There will not be any limitation in the learner. Therefore, you have to concentrate while assessing the student that whether the student has to give the answer by remembering the concepts or by understanding the concept or by applying the concept, analyzing the given problem with a particular concept, evaluating the given scenario, or creating some new thing. That is the modified Bloom's taxonomy level. Here, all the levels which are below this pyramidic picture are known as lower order thinking skills, and which are at the top are known as higher order thinking skills, lots and hearts. Remember, level is a lot. Creating level is a heart, H-O-T, L-O-T. Heart is nothing but higher order thinking skill. Lot is nothing but lower order thinking skill. More the higher order thinking skill for a student, more the competency. The graduate attributes acquired by that learner is very, very effective. That's what we can realize by means of this Bloom's taxonomy. You carefully observe this particular table, roughly, and this reflects about the cognitive domain levels with respect to the Bloom's taxonomy level. What are the acts and verbs we will use in modified Bloom's taxonomy from remember to create level? So the keywords I have given here, these are required to put the question. So what question you have to put? What should be the level of the question you have to decide? You need to assess the student either through internal assessment test or the end semester examination. In this outcome-based education, you have to assess the student by following the modified Bloom's taxonomy. So the question paper reflects about the extent of application of outcome-based education framework. So that W questions are all related to the remembering level. So what is, why is, where is, when is, who was, whom is, these W questions are very, very vague questions. You are not supposed to ask those questions in outcome-based education. You have to use certain keywords. What are those keywords? Say, for example, if you wanted to ask a question to get the answer from the student through his memory, means what he is remembering, you have to use the keyword define, list, recall, identify, etc. Similarly, the second level, level 2, understanding level, the question should be asked to get the answer by explaining the ideas or concepts. What keyword is appropriate? Describe, explain, summarize, interpret. Similarly, some concept is to be applied. So Newton's third law is to be applied. Say, in economics, some economic principles, microeconomics or macroeconomics are to be applied. So some concept is needed to be applied. So your question should have the keywords such as use, implement, solve, demonstrate, etc. Then analysis level. Student should be able to break the information into parts, and he has to understand the situation and the relationships. So the keywords are to be differentiate, compare, contrast, categorize, etc. Then the level 5 evaluation level, the student should be able to justify through a decision or course of action. So you should use the keywords such as judge, critique, assess, recommend, evaluate, substantiate, etc., inspect, etc. Create level are always giving the scope for innovation. So you can ask the question by incorporating the keywords such as design, construct, plan, invent, prepare, fabricate, innovate, invent, etc. So these are all certain keywords, and these are from lots to hearts here. Remember is a lot, create is a heart. Conventional question papers, if you see, mostly up to level 2, the questions are covered, either remembering level or understanding level. This application level or analysis level questions are asked only in UPSC or KPSC or central government or state government conducting examinations. But in the outcome-based education system, even we too have to practice asking the questions in the level of application, analysis, evaluate, creating. Of course, you are teaching a concept to the students. They have to utilize that concept and they should be able to create something new because they have to become innovative and they have to become creative. That is one of the graduate attributes. Right. So this table should be very useful to you. Then one question you have to put yourself, yes, sir. Of course, we have to assess the student in order to make sure that students have acquired all the graduate attributes and they are having employability skills. That is the major outcome. They should become employable. How to make learners competent? This is a question. In order to make the learners competent enough, you stop teaching traditionally. What we are doing, what is the traditional teaching method? Chalk and talk method. By just utilizing a PowerPoint presentation, that is not a modern teaching methodology. That will not make the learner competent. Don't mistake me. Even using the projector to present the PowerPoint presentation will be simply to complete the portion, not to make the learners to become competent. So how to make the learning process to be effective so that the learners can become competent? You adopt all these things. Number one is flipped mode. Flipped mode means give some topic to the students as a homework. Discuss that tomorrow in the classroom. That is the flipped mode. The discussion may be either online or offline. That is the flipped mode. Take the students in group for discussion. You put the problem in front of students. Make them to discuss in front of you. Give the appropriate solution for the problem. Let the students give the solution for that problem. Then the learners will become competent. Then the experiential learning. Experiential learning means learning while doing. Put them to do certain experiments. Put them to get some experience while learning so that create opportunities for internship, create opportunity to visit Mysore Palace, create opportunity to visit archaeological places, create some opportunity to visit hospitals, etc., where some live examples are given. Let them involve if the provisions are available. Certain experiments are needed to be implement it. They have to gain the experience through that experiment. That is experiential learning. Participatory learning, let them present a seminar on a particular topic. Let them visit an industry to understand what real process is going on there in the industry. What the real sculpture is put in Mysore Palace, what the real art has been done in Beluru, Halebeedu, etc. So historical places, you allow students to visit. You allow students to visit industries. You allow students to go to any other typical places where certain participation is allowed. Allow the students to create a model. Allow the students to present a project, etc. That is participatory learning. More importantly, allow the students in individual or in group to perform a project work. That should be compulsory. If the students are not able to lead the projects, are not able to execute the projects, then their bachelor's or master's degree will be went vain. They are not going to be useful. So they have to involve in the projects. It may be individual project or group projects, whatever it is. Projects not necessarily from your subject domain. It may be from other than the subject. If there is no provision in the curriculum, you give some extra preference for that. Therefore, you give the life for the students. Then internships, you create a particular course in the degree, whatever the student is studying, there should be scope for the internship. Internship should not be lecture internship. Internship should be participatory learning mode. He has to go outside the institution. He has to work collaboratively with one or the other. That's what the internship is very, very important. When he involve in a project-based work or internship work, definitely he will inculcate himself about the problem-solving attitude, problem-solving approach. Let the student take a case and let him study about that particular case. What are the aims, objectives, and the outcomes? What are the consequences evolved out of that particular case study? You make the student to involve in that. If all this is possible, definitely there will be a scope to improve the analytical and critical thinking skills in the students. That's what. If you implement all these things apart from the traditional blackboard method for the effective teaching process, the learners will be definitely become competent. Therefore, you will become a valuable teacher for them. They will remember as long as they are alive. That is one important thing. Okay, now let me come back to the outcome-based education framework now. You remember you are teaching in the classroom. Why? For the effective learning of the students. You are assessing the students. Why? Whether they have got the competencies. Those competencies should be helpful for their employability. Then you have to get the results of the assessment to evaluate the attainment levels for the course outcomes, program specific outcomes, program learning objectives or program educational objectives, mission of the institution, and vision of the institution. So the successful story of any higher education institution will begin from your teaching process. If your teaching is good enough, then the vision will be fulfilled for any higher education institution. That institution will become the most quality education institution. Huge demand will be there. Why? You are able to give all the graduate attributes through the programs offered in that higher education institution, which is having prescribed vision and mission statements. What are these graduate attributes? These graduate attributes are the skills or competencies or qualities acquired by the students during their course of study. This is exactly to be concentrated when we develop outcome-based education framework. That is very important. Okay. In this outcome-based education, assessment is one of the primary criterions. How do we assess? We assess the students in outcome-based education in two ways. One is the direct assessment and another one is the indirect assessment. I can put in front of you that direct assessment is simply assessing the students by giving the marks. That's it. It may be an internal assessment test, it may be Viva, it may be assignment, it may be seminar, it may be end semester examination, it may be a marks for industry visit, it may be marks for seminar, it may be marks for education tour, it may be marks for internship, whatever it is. There is a maximum marks prescribed. What is the marks secured by the student? That is compared, and you will calculate that in terms of percentage. That is direct assessment. Indirect assessment is different from direct assessment. What is this indirect assessment? You have to assess the student's perceptions, whether really he has acquired the graduate attributes or not. That is to be understood. That is the indirect assessment. Whether the attitude of the graduate or the student graduated from our institute is helpful in making that student employable. That is the indirect assessment. Whether the employer of your graduate, means your graduate is working in an organization, is he satisfied? Once the employer is satisfied, definitely that means to say that the attitudes or the attributes or the competency acquired by the graduate is satisfactory. That is the indirect assessment. So this indirect assessment about any student will be done through surveys or through feedbacks. By whom you will collect the feedback? With whom you will do the survey? You will do the survey with the employers, with the stakeholders, means the parents of the students, teachers of the students, employers of your graduate, peer teachers of your graduates, etc. So these are all known as indirect assessment. Then ultimately, we have to compare the assessment results in direct and indirect assessments. Why? Direct assessment may be sometimes vague, but indirect assessment will not be. Indirect assessment will be giving you a clear picture about what the graduate is exactly doing. But the direct assessment is only in terms of the percentage of marks. So if you compare the results of direct assessment with the results of the indirect assessment, there will be scope for improving the quality, and there will be a concrete evidence of achieving the learning outcomes by the student. That's what you have to evaluate the attainments by two types of assessments, that is direct and indirect assessments. All right. Okay. Next, there are certain essential components of outcome-based education. You have to understand the meaning of the outcomes. Outcomes are nothing but the real results. They are relative terms. They are the consequences of an activity or an action or a process. Then the curriculum is your syllabus. Don't say it is a syllabus. Curriculum document, you have to say the curriculum, whatever you use for BA, BSc, BCom, BBA, BCA, BO, MA, MSc, MCom, MCA, etc. They are OBE documents, you have to say, outcome-based education document. Then the assessment will be happening continuously. You have to assess the student directly and indirectly. And this is a continuous process. C1, C2, component 1 test, component 2 test, seminar, assignment, Viva, all these are the components of assessment. That may be internal or external. But it should be continuous. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, the continuous assessment will be happening. So you will be in the mentoring process. During the mentoring process, you may have the ability to understand the capabilities of the learner. According to the requirement of the learner, you can extend the service of teaching. So assessment is a continuous process. Then the feedback from the stakeholders, feedback from the employer, feedback from the teachers, feedback from the parents of the students, that will make the outcome-based education implementation very, very effective. Program evaluation is very important. Whether the program offering by you is making the graduates with good enough attributes, means to make them become employable. Evaluate that. If evaluation is done properly, definitely you can introduce the new programs in such a way that those new programs will assist the students of the future generation. Then the stakeholder engagement. Stakeholder engagement means you have to get the consent from each and everyone, each and every corner of the stakeholders, parents, alumni, teachers, employers, students, etc. Because you are supplying the resources, and those resources should be very useful. In order to assess that, in order to evaluate that, you should have a clear engagement. Okay. For any higher education institution, the OBE framework can be set like this. It has two components. One is set prescribed outcomes, and the attainment of these outcomes will be obtained by assessment. Outcomes and assessment, they are at the two different corners. What these outcomes really says about? These outcomes say about the course outcomes, program educational objectives, and ultimately achievement of the vision and the mission. How do you assess? You assess the performance of the student in a course, in a program. If successful candidate successfully completed a degree and he become employed, then that is the institutional success. Through the assessment, you got the result, you got the outcome that institution is surviving. There is a huge scope always for continuous improvement. So outcomes are assessed through a prescribed curriculum document by utilizing certain teaching methodologies, making the students to involving learning activities, and by using appropriate assessment tools. Of course, you have to get the inputs from stakeholders also. That's what you will be having a board of studies. In the board of studies, you have the industry experts. You will have the alumni. They give the inputs. What type of curriculum you have to offer for BA degree, BSc degree, etc. These inputs are very, very important. Why? In order to improve the performance continuously. That is known as continuous improvement. Okay. So with this OBE framework, let me move on to give certain training to all of you about how to write the CO statements in a curriculum for a particular course. As you know, CO statement is a statement which describes the competency acquired by the student after successful completion of the study of that course. What is that successful completion of the study of that course? Passing that in the examination. So these course outcomes will be there in the curriculum. Who has to write this? This should be written by the appropriate expert in the BOS, Board of Studies. Who has to validate that? BOS has to validate that. Who has to approve that? BOS has to approve that. Then academic council, if it is autonomous college. If it is affiliated, university has to approve that. Okay. Then what is CO? You have to follow certain guidelines to write the CO statement. A CO may be 3 or more for a particular course. How to write the CO? That is very important. Any CO you are writing should reflect the evolved competency in the student, the evolved attribute of the student. It should involve with action verb, means what the student is capable to do, with the knowledge of the subject content. Subject content, you could not miss. Action verb, subject content. And you have to incorporate the Bloom's taxonomy level also, whether he has to study that course to fulfill the course outcome by applying the knowledge or by remembering the information, by understanding the information, by evaluating the information, or by the ability to create something new. That is the Bloom's taxonomy level. And what is the mode of performing? Whether he has to perform certain experiment, he has to involve certain illustrations, etc. All these things should be there. So you have to write the CO statement by using action verb, subject content, level of achievement as in Bloom's taxonomy level, modes of performing the task. This is optional. Okay, I have given an instance here for a CO. See, this is the first statement. This is a common statement. These are 1, 2, 3, 4 COs for a particular course. Say, for example, I have written these course outcome statements for a course of separation techniques in chemistry. Separation techniques. Separation techniques is the title of the course. This course is for MSc chemistry program. And this course is having 4 outcomes, 4 course outcomes. What are those? These are. How these course outcomes are written? By following these rules. Okay, number 1, you have to use the action verb. After successful completion of the course on separation techniques, student will be able to design a procedure to separate organic acids and bases. So you will follow certain procedure to separate acids and bases. What is the action verb here? Design. Design is the action verb. Okay, next. In the course